RFK independent candidacy announcement causes re-examination of his record. Rare things did not go as planned. Robert Kennedy Jr. peaked at around 19% in Democrat primary polls, often hovering around single digits during the 6 months that he existed as a Democrat candidate for president. Although Kennedy is an energetic campaigner who favors uplifting, inspirational, and unifying campaign rhetoric, his campaign was largely blackballed by the mainstream media. RFK Jr., the nephew of slain President John F. Kennedy and the son of former Attorney General and New York U.S. Senator Robert F. Kennedy, maximized his opportunities on alternative podcast media, but his candidacy, ironically, got more coverage from conservative outlets like Fox and Newsmax. Videos by Rare to the extent that mainstream media covered the Kennedy candidacy, they did so largely by marginalizing him for his outspoken anti-vaccination stance, and branding him as a conspiracy theorist, because he was amazingly candid about his belief that the Central Intelligence Agency was deeply involved in the murder of both his uncle and his father. Kennedy's outspoken criticism of Dr. Anthony Fauci and the safety and effectiveness of vaccinations has largely dominated his public image and has, to some extent, limited public exposure of his record as a conventional left-of-center progressive Democrat. RFK Jr.'s unorthodox views on vaccinations and his criticism of Big Pharma has brought the criticism of members of his own family. 4 of RFK Jr.'s siblings issued a statement blasting his candidacy, calling it dangerous to our country. Bobby might share the same name as our father, but he does not share the same values, vision, or judgment. Sister Carrie Kennedy said on X, "Today's announcement is deeply saddening for us. We denounce his candidacy and believe it to be perilous for our country." Kennedy positioned himself as a peace and freedom candidate, speaking mostly about his support for closing our southern border, his opposition to the corporate government policy of shipping U.S. jobs overseas, and his skepticism about the war in Ukraine and additional multi-billion-dollar funding for that effort. Little mention was made about his support for the Biden administration's opposition to additional oil and gas drilling permits in the United States or his progressive positions on a host of other hot-button issues. Time equals 400 Ms. greater than Kennedy himself seemed shocked by both the mainstream media blackout regarding his candidacy and the Biden-controlled Democratic National Committee's successful efforts to hamstring his candidacy by essentially delegitimizing the Iowa caucuses and New Hampshire primary, making South Carolina the first real contest in the Democrat nomination process. Under DNC rules, RFK would have been penalized and unallowed to compete in later states like Georgia and South Carolina if he dared campaign in Iowa or New Hampshire, even if to win a Pyrrhic victory. Though Kennedy's candidacy caused some buzz largely because of his heritage, support for his campaign within Democrat circles was underwhelming to say the least. He really represented no threat to Joe Biden. Now, Kennedy has announced that he will no longer be seeking the Democrat nomination and will instead run for president as an independent candidate in 2024. With his campaign flush with cash mostly raised with the assistance of some of his Hollywood friends and with several pro-Kennedy super PACs well funded by Bitcoin and high-tech entrepreneurs, Kennedy made the strategic decision to bolt the Democrat Party and seek election as an independent. Preliminary polls released by Kennedy's own campaign seem to indicate that if he is actually able to get on the ballot in enough states to theoretically garner the 270 electoral votes for victory, Kennedy would actually draw a disproportionate of votes from Republican frontrunner Donald Trump. Trump's supporters have moved aggressively to paint a fuller and more accurate picture of who Robert F. Kennedy Jr. really is. Kennedy himself seemed stunned when Fox News host Sean Hannity confronted him about RFK's past endorsements of Al Gore, John Kerry, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, and Gavin Newsom. Hannity also confronted the Kennedy family scion for calling the National Rifle Association a terror group in 2018. Kennedy also has de-emphasized his support for legal abortion, which he rarely mentioned during his time as a Democrat candidate for president, but would now seem counterproductive if his goal is to siphon votes from Trump, as some in the former president's camp seem to believe. Kennedy has also come under fire for being a proponent of the Green New Deal. He has stated that if elected president, he will outlaw the practice of fracking for natural gas. Trump believes that, without fracking, America has no means to access the fortunes of natural gas that sit below our feet, which Trump claims will propel our American economy to the future, and help to facilitate the economic growth of underdeveloped nations through exportation. Kennedy also takes a radical position on the climate change agenda. Kennedy has gone as far as to claim that those who disagree with his climate change policies should be jailed. In a clip from a 2014 protest, Kennedy is seen saying, "Climate change deniers, do I think they should be in jail? I think they should be enjoying free hots and a cod at the hay with all the other war criminals who are there." The interviewer then asks Kennedy, "What about politicians, people who deny and express skepticism?" Kennedy responded, saying, "I think they're selling out the public trust, and I think those guys who are doing the Koch brothers' bidding, and who are against all the evidence of the rational mind are saying that global warming doesn't exist. They are contemptible human beings. I wish there was a law you could punish them under. I don't think there's a law that you can punish those politicians under, but do I think the Koch brothers should be prosecuted for reckless endangerment? Absolutely, that's a criminal offense and they ought to be serving time for it." Kennedy Jr. even went as far as to endorse Hillary Clinton for president in 2016 against Donald Trump. RFK had even endorsed Hillary Clinton in 2012, when the rest of his clan, including his uncle Senator Edward M. Ted Kennedy, endorsed Barack Obama. After endorsing Hillary Clinton in 2016, RFK went on to push the fake Russian collusion hoax, which claimed that Donald Trump's 2016 campaign colluded with Russian intelligence in order to win the 2016 election. This entire escapade has now been thoroughly debunked by the report by Special Counsel John Durham, which concluded that the Obama administration, Department of Justice, CIA, and FBI knew that the so-called Steele dossier on which the Russian collusion hoax was based was fabricated. In other words, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. supported those who insisted that Trump's 2016 election was illegitimate. Kennedy Jr. made many posts to his Twitter in support of the Mueller investigation into Trump and his administration over the Russian collusion hoax. In one post, Kennedy can be quoted as saying, hours after former special counsel Robert Mueller testified Wednesday that Russians are still meddling in the U.S. political system, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell blocked the advancement of legislation to secure the nation's election system. See that post below. While many in the media take Kennedy's newly minted, independent, candidacy at face value, they ignore the extreme difficulty that Kennedy will face in actually getting his name on the ballot in enough states to be a viable candidate. Ballot access is governed by 50 different state laws. However, in all cases those laws have been written by Republicans and Democrats working together to make ballot access difficult, if not impossible, in order to eliminate competition to the entrenched two-party system. Time equals 400 Ms. greater than longtime Trump advisor Roger Stone, who himself bolted the Republican Party after its 2012 presidential nomination of Mitt Romney to help former New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson get on the ballot in 48 states as the nominee of the National Libertarian Party, recently noted that process was legally complex, arcane, expensive, and manpower-intensive. Stone noted that most states provided a very short time frame for those seeking independent ballot access to qualify, often combined with a near impossible number of petition signatures required within the established timeframe. Stone also noted that in both 2012 and 2016, many Republican state committees moved to challenge the ballot access bids of the Libertarian Party, while Democrat state committees took similar actions against the Green Party efforts in many states. Stone analyzed the potential impact of Kennedy's independent candidacy on his own net-based show recently. His sudden emergence during the 2024 presidential election would appear to be yet another Democrat ploy to weaken Trump and his chances of winning re-election once again. If the Democrats can't successfully indict Trump, they will simply insert people into the race in an attempt to pull away from his voter base, ensuring that Joe Biden remains president, and that the Washington, D.C. political class can continue to decimate the American people. Time equals 400 Ms. greater than share via Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, more.